like this. This is kind of where we left off yesterday, talking about times that we could do a substitution that would make something look a little easier. You see a substitution here that would make this one look simpler. Say it again. How? Okay, yeah. So we could maybe make a substitution here where we're going to let, if we let x squared equal some other variable, wouldn't that look a little simpler then, right? So if we did something like that, like we call it y if you want to, x squared equals y, then this would become 5y squared, and that would just become 29y, and now all of a sudden this looks like a normal, just regular trinomial, right? Okay, so let's just review. How would we solve this trinomial from yesterday?
5 times 42.
We got to find, magic numbers, don't we? Right. So what's that going to be then? We're going to get. M times n would have to equal what? Negative 210. Yeah, 5 times negative 42. So negative 210 and m plus n would have to equal.
Wow, that's a big number.
Yeah, 29, right? Okay, so then how would we go about this? Would we want to, what do you think would be better? Do we want to find factors of negative 210 that add to 29?
I think between them first.
Yeah, right. Being as the product is negative, it's actually easier here for us to look for numbers that add to 29 instead, right? So let me grab one of those. Hang on. Let's see, where would I find that? Oops. Want one of those, don't I? Right, so we want one of these tables. Okay, so then we want to find some numbers that add to 29 and multiply to negative 210. So what do you know about the signs of the numbers?
First one's positive, the second one's negative.
Okay, good. The bigger is positive, the smaller is negative. So we just got to find some numbers that are, where the positive one is 29 bigger. Like what if we started with, I don't know, like if we started with something like, what would be a good one? Like, I don't know. Like if we start with something like 39 positive 39 and negative 10, we're way off on it. That product is negative 390, so we're way too big. So what do we need to do? Say it again. Yes, scoot up the list a little bit, right? So what if we tried, how about 37 and negative 8? What's that? We're still too big, aren't we?
296.
296. So we got to scoot up a bit more. How about 35? 35 and negative 6. That works, doesn't it? Yeah. So there's the winner. So we know what our magic numbers are then. M is 35, N is negative 6. So what do we do? Okay, good. Yeah, so we're going to split that middle coefficient, the 29. Now, I had a couple questions about this yesterday. So if I split the coefficient, I'm splitting the term, aren't I? Right? Like if I'm going to make, for example, if I'm going to let 29 split into 35 minus 6, well, if I'm going to multiply that whole thing by y, I would just distribute the y, wouldn't I? So it makes sense that we're actually splitting that middle term. into these two coefficients, right? Okay, so then that guy, which one do I want to put first? I mean, I could, but being as I'm going to factor by grouping, I mean, it's not a big deal, but I always would put the negative one first. Right, so then you get a plus between the groups. So we'll split that into a negative 6y plus 35y. And these other terms just stay the same. So now what? Factor by grouping, yeah. So what is the first group splits into what? Okay, the GCF is y. The leftover then is. Now I found magic numbers, so it's guaranteed this is going to work, right? So I automatically know that that binomial gets copied over here. What would have to be out front for that to happen? Yeah, I'd have to just be a 7, wouldn't it? Okay, so then what's my factored form in terms of y? Okay, yeah, I've got my common binomial. I'll factor out front times what's left behind. Are we done? What's the last step? Yeah, good. I have to reverse the substitution. Right, so I made the substitution to simplify matters. Now I've got to reverse it back to the original variable, which is x. So we end up then with 5x squared minus 6 times x squared plus 7. Make sense? Okay, what about one like this that involves multiple variables? Everybody, you really ought to click these close and take a look, because this is one that you're probably going to have some questions about, I bet. And this is right from both assignments. You're going to see stuff like this. So what should I do first, always? Greatest common factor. What could I take out? 10x. Okay. So and then I'm left behind with what?
4y minus 4y
squared z plus z squared.
Okay, good. Suggestions here. Yeah. What do you think? What would you substitute?
for y squared.
Y for z, y squared.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good. How about if we let y squared equal something we've already used? We have x, y's, and z's, so let's call it a u. That's a common one we use a lot of times in calculus. So u equals y squared. Then that changes things a little bit, right? Then we end up with, I've got my 10x out front. Now I've got 4u squared minus 4uz plus z squared. Okay, what should I do with the orange trinomial there? What are my options? If I want to factor that orange trinomial, I mean, I could use grouping, and we'll do that. But a lot of times if I have small coefficients like I do here, a lot of times it's easier just to kind of trial and error it, right? If I have really big coefficients, that's a bad idea because there's too many different possible factors. But how many, I mean, look at the coefficient of z squared is positive 1, right? That's easy. The factor's positive 1. There's only 2 possibilities. What are they? 1 and 1 or Like if I'm gonna, here's what I'm getting at. If I wanna take this whole thing and factor that, I could take everything in orange there and I could break it up by trial and error into the possible different binomials that I could get based on the coefficients and just see which one works, right? I know that the numbers that go, the coefficients of z squared are both positive. So whatever those numbers are, they have to multiply to a positive, right? The numbers that are gonna go here and here, but they have to add to something negative. So I know they're both gonna be negative, right, by my sign conventions? Okay, well, we'll look at this one more.